countdown. Bingo. We're live, baby. All right, what's up, y'all? Thanks for joining, tapping in with us. Sorry, there was a little bit of some technical difficulties behind the scenes there, but we got it all worked out, as we always do. The show must go on. My guy, Chris from Cowboys Beat. It's been a while since we did any work together. Actually, long overdue since, the events of what transpired in the Green Bay Packers game. It seems like it was decades ago. It's been a long offseason. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, man.
Not the least, man. It's good to be working with you again, and I appreciate. I've seen you've been grinding behind the scenes too, and so you were like, you hit me up. You said, "Hey, let's go together." I said, "You say the word, brother." So here we are. The off-season essentials, schedule release. We're going to talk about all that, and then we're really just going to kind of lay low, kick back, let the fans dictate the show. You guys have questions for us, you know what to do. Send them in the chat, and we'll do the best that we can. But Chris, it's all yours, brother. The floor is yours, my man. How you doing?
Hey, man, you want to know what's funny? I just thought today, I was like, damn, the last time I worked with Landon, I'm like, you want to know, I don't want to remember the last time. Not because I don't enjoy working with you, but because the last time we did it, it was some very bad things went down during that. And the very bad things, for anybody wondering, was the Green Bay Packers game. It wasn't anything, crazy like that. You want to know what? It was the worst thing that could possibly happen to anybody, because that game was just, man, I'll never forget that game as long as I live, in a bad way.
Complete annihilation. So let's go ahead and I think what I want to do first, the way I want to start this off, let me just kind of get your overarching thoughts about. I've done I know you're grinding big time behind the scenes, like we touched on, man. So when you're a content creator, it's tough to be a content consumer. So I don't know if you've seen anything that I've posted in my series, like 16 weeks or so. I don't know if you know where I'm at. So I'm just gonna let you. I'm gonna hand you the mic, no pun intended here, and then talk to me about, I guess the start with the free agency order of operations and the way that, how All In obviously didn't transpire to what most people had hoped that it would. And then obviously just the chain reaction, the series of events, so on and so forth, right? The contracts not being signed or extended with some of your premier players at premier positions. Obviously we're going to touch on the draft as well, but just talk to me about, I guess, free agency, where there's the state of the roster right now, everything that's happened post-mortem. Where are you at personally?
Yeah. My biggest problem with how the Cowboys have handled this offseason has been mainly the contracts, right? Now, I think there are two sides that I don't think, we're privy to seeing, right? Like, I feel like there are some things that, like, hey, we're looking at the Cowboys and we're putting pressure on them to extend these guys, but we don't know the other side of the token and exactly what the other side is asking for. So I do think that, like, there is a little bit of side of me where I'm just like, all right, like, I can't comment on it with as much information as I want to comment on it with, is because, like, if Dak Prescott's saying, like, hey, we want $64 million, I can see why the Cowboys are just like, whoa. Let's work down this price a little bit. And, one thing is, to kind of go off on a tangent a bit on that, it slipped under people's noses because Jerry completely fumbled the word. He said, during that press conference where they were talking about the contract extensions with Jane Slater, he said that's the $64,000 question. Now, I think he meant to say $64 million question, but I think he was trying to relay, hey, these are some of the numbers that are going on in these negotiations right now.
Wait a second. Okay. So I'm writing this down because that's kind of explosive. I don't know if you saw, I did the last live show that I did was the explosive press conference, the immediate post-draft presser from Jerry, Steven, Will, and whoever else was up there. I forget at the time, but Mike, obviously. That was not one of the things that I touched on. So that must have been since then, within the last 6 days or so, I'm guessing. Was it during minicamp or?
It was the pre-draft press conference when Jane Slater, when Jane was getting on them for the contract extensions. Jerry in there said that's the $64,000 question. Now, I don't think he meant 64,000. I think he meant 64 million. And I think he's trying to leak to us like, hey, these are some of the numbers that are getting floated around. And I don't know if we're willing to get to that number, you know. So that's just something that kind of, you know, I do think it's fair for fans to criticize the front office with the lack of moves and, you know, the way they handle these contracts. But I don't blame the fan base for getting on them for this, because we've seen in the past with this team how poorly they've handled these negotiations.
Oh, no question. I mean, case in point with the guy that we're talking about right now, with Dak Prescott, right? They've already this has happened to them once. This is history repeating itself, right? They've already gotten pistol whipped at the negotiating table by Todd France, and it's happening again. Whether or not they extend him now, which I still think there's no shot in hell that they don't, just because. I mean, come on, y'all. Look at the history of the league, right? The most important position in all sports. A second leading vote getter in the MVP race last year. Those two things parlayed together, regardless of what you think about Dak Prescott from your particular fan base, I can tell you right now, the National Football League, from sea to shining sea, they view Dak Prescott as one of the 5 to 7 best quarterbacks in the game. One of the 5 to 7 best quarterbacks in the game on the open market today is going to get minimum $60 million on average.
And honestly, like when you talk about like front offices, I think that there's a lot of front offices that would view him as like, hey, if we could have this guy as our quarterback, we would view him within the top 5 to top 7, right? Depending on because there are a lot of front offices that would say, hey, you know, Lamar Jackson isn't our cup of tea. You know,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to have the offensive philosophy and the scheme to kind of cater to the strengths of Lamar. Like, it's two completely different players, really. Like they two totally different positions in a lot of ways, right? But the thing for me is I understand what the Lions, what they did. I think Jared Goff is a competent quarterback. I think he's smart. But his physical limitations, even more so than that of Dak Prescott, right? You and I could probably agree. I think we both understand and comprehend and try to talk about what he's got up here is really what separates him, right between the ears. The most important trait for a quarterback, really any player for any position, but it's the very thing that you can't tangibly, you can't measure it, right? So that's why drafting in general, in the first place, it's so difficult to do. It's tough to hit on those things because a guy can be the perfect athlete, have the fantastic production at the college level. He can be a guy that you think loves football, but if he doesn't have a good history or understanding of dealing with adversity, he's not very disciplined. He doesn't understand and prioritize sleep, right? He doesn't take care of his body with what he's putting into it as far as nutrition is concerned. There's a lot of different things that go on here, but if Jared Goff is commanding, 53, 55 million per year, like APY, I mean, let's be honest about the situation, man.
Oh, yeah.
The number starts like bare minimum. If you're Todd France, like Dak's $5 million better than Jared Goff.
Oh, no doubt about it.
We're talking about 60 million minimum. And that's just,
here's the thing, right? Like, I can already see where some people would go with this. Like, well, Jared Goff got the 3 NFC championships and a Super Bowl. Well, that's a team accomplishment. And if you give Dak, Sean McVay, and Ben Johnson with some of the pieces that Jared Goff has had in the past, he'd probably have a Super Bowl under. They would have traded for Matt Stafford because they would have been good at the quarterback position. Okay. No doubt about it. Like, if I'm Todd France, I'm like, yeah, wins are a quarterback stat, or wins aren't a quarterback stat. Like, he's clearly a better player than Jared Goff.
It's the ultimate team sport.
It's the ultimate team sport, but all of a sudden, and it's like funny because we can separate it in college to where we can all look at, Stetson Bennett and be like, this guy isn't the best quarterback in the country, like 2 years ago when he played for Georgia, but they won the national championship. And it's funny how we can separate that in college, but we can't separate that in the NFL. It's just like, and I get it. The person who's won the Super Bowl, and a lot of these recent Super Bowls have either been Mahomes or Brady, and they've been the best quarterback in the sport. But it's kind of like when you look outside of that, when you look at some of the contenders, like Brock Purdy's not a better quarterback than Dak. He's not. Like Jared Goff, not better. Jalen Hurts, not better. Like all
No,
these guys are kind of, limited in certain aspects of the game that I just don't think Dak Prescott's limited in. Like I look at, Dak Prescott, he's not Josh Allen, but he's like right below. Like when you look at his skill set, how versatile he is as a quarterback, how he's able to use his legs. He's not like a runner with the football, but he uses his legs to create
extending plays, extending the
ex-
pocket to make plays down the field. Absolutely.
and when you look at him, like he's probably top 3 pure pocket passer in football. Like the stuff that he has learned at the quarterback position and has mastered, it takes people as long as it takes as long as it took Dak Prescott to get to this point. And it's like, man, he's here.
Yeah.
He's got like all the cerebral aspects of his game that a guy like Drew Brees had. And it's just like we want to now get rid of him at this point. Like it's just, to me, it really doesn't make sense why. And I understand the playoff situation. I get it, but like
Sure.
he's not he's not even, he's the part of the solution for this football team. And is it going to be a big price? It's going to be a big price, but that's what happens when you draft good players. And one last thing, I know I'm long-winded on this
No,
one.
hey, this is your show as much as it's mine. This is a collaborative effort, and we're, like we said, we're going with the flow. So no agenda at all. We're do your thing, man.
People oftentimes give Dak a lot of crap for what he hasn't accomplished, but don't look at what he has accomplished. And what I mean by that is when you look at the progression that he took in his game from year 1 to where he is right now, it is impressive. When I saw him at Mississippi State, never in a million years would I have expected that he would turn into the type of pocket passer that he turned into. It is incredible and remarkable the progression that he made in his game over the past decade of his career. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that. People just look at, oh, well, you're not able to get your team to the very, very top, and don't look at how far he's come as a overall quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly where I'm at too. And the thing that a lot of people miss is, when you put the star on your helmet, right? I've talked about this at length. And it's really actually kind of what got me started in this career here. I just spoke my candid and honest thoughts immediately after their Eagles game 2 years ago. And the Cowboys were, depending on the metrics that you follow and the sites that you trust, bottom half of the league rushing the football. And then in the postseason, in terms of yards per carry, they were by far the worst. Their last we talked about this behind the scenes. Their last 3 playoff games combined, 3.2 yards per carry between Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard. 3.2. And for context, to help you process how bad that is, if you just extend that over a 17-game stretch, that would have been good for 28th in the National Football League in 2023. Only 3 teams, or so 29, 30, 31, 32. 4 teams would have been worse last year running the football than 3.2 yards per carry. So essentially, non-existent running game, and that's just in the postseason. That's that short sample size, obviously, where it matters and where it counts the most. Where the game, the physicality in the sport really gets cranked up a notch, right? The Cowboys, they were very. It was much of the same, not quite to that low of an extent, but they were the number 1 offense in football without anybody being threatened by their ability to run the football.
It's incredible.
And it's not even just like the Cowboys couldn't punch it in and short downs and distances last year. They couldn't punch it in on the goal line. That's in a lot of ways. That's why Zeke is back here. That's the whole point of that. Having a competent guy that's going to fall forward. The vision, you and Okoye did a fantastic breakdown, by the way. My last YouTube video, I gave you guys.
Yep, I saw it. I appreciate that, bro.
I felt that you deserved, man, because you guys did a really good job of applying some just being real about the situation. Okay. And, there's a lot of people who, there's like really 2 sides to the Zeke thing. There's the There's the blatant homerism that's like, yeah, bring Zeke back. He's going to be great. And then there's the people like myself who were in the camp of, before they released him 2 years ago, hey, please get this guy out of here, right? He cannot account for the amount of money that he's accounting for and only getting it felt like 2.9 yards per carry. But now granted, where I thought you guys did a great job was applying nuanced context to the situation. It's been a long time since Cowboys fans have seen Zeke operate like that final year, the year that people are pointing to and saying he's cooked. And while I agree in most cases, he was playing on a battered knee.
Yeah. And
right?
And he played at 1,000% too.
Yeah. And so, fully healthy, yeah, he's serviceable. But still in my head, like there is a time and a place, like I love the mentorship, helping, sort of cultivate the growth and accelerate the NFL acclamation for somebody like Deuce. Everybody else is more tenured. So Deuce is really the only one in that room that could really benefit from mentorship, I guess, if you want to say. But, obviously the short downs and distances, like we talked about, converting around the goal line, and then of course, pass protection, right? That's the thing.
Gonna need it week 1.
I was just about to say,
gonna need it week 1.
We know who's jogging out there. We know who's jogging out there for sure with the first team on week 1, regardless of who the Cowboys sign for via cap casualty or a trade of some sort. Like we're going to talk about that in just a second too. Some running backs that maybe make sense for teams that have a surplus at that position. But yeah, man, anybody who was upset about just lost some light over here. Anybody upset about Zeke returning, at least probably is a little bit more thankful when they see that Tyler Guyton is going to be having his welcome to the NFL moment against, the reigning defending
defensive player of the year.
Yeah, so.
And here's the thing, right? Like Ezekiel Elliott last season was not that bad at all. Like if you dig into his tape, you're going to be like, wow, that's actually, his legs look really damn good here. And like
crowded boxes too. They couldn't throw the Pats didn't threaten anybody through the air. So yeah, teams were loading up to stop the run, and he was still decent. I agree.
And like when you go back and watch a tape, it's like you see certain plays where it's like, oh, he makes that first guy miss, but then he's running into a sea of defenders because there's just nowhere to go with the football, right? Like you see on certain inside runs, inside zone, he's getting certain linebacker, he's getting a linebacker into a different gap than the one he wants to attack. Like you're seeing these things on tape to where it's just like, okay, like can he be a 12 carry a game guy? Yeah, like he can do that. Like
that's the number that I landed on, that for as far as ideal touches per week. That's exactly what I said, is 10, 12 touches per week.
And the thing is, right? Like when you have the type of interior offensive line that you have, you're going to be able to get downhill. You're going to be able to move people, and teams are going to have to feel you when you have a running back room as physical as the Cowboys do, right? Like teams are going to have to feel you, and that like translates, right? And then once you add the type of passing attack that the Cowboys had, you made a great point of bringing it up. It's like the fact that this offense was ranked as highly as they were with how poor the run. And I would say, like the fact that was the case shows you like there's still a lot of meat left on the bone, and where it's like I don't fall into the doom and gloom type of fan is where like I sit there and I say, hey, we talked about it a lot on these live streams because, we were working together with a lot of these live streams. Like, I can't tell you how many times I would say to you guys, like, they didn't lose this game because they didn't have enough talent. Like, they lost this game because, they weren't disciplined enough. Right. And I think that, like you didn't lose in Green Bay because you weren't talented enough. Like, and where I kind of, push back on people where it's like, I feel like people aren't giving the front office enough credit, because like I understand going after the front office, I do, but you don't put 9 all pros on the field by accident. Like that is intentional. That is great evaluations on top of being able to manipulate the salary cap in a way to where you can put all these guys on your team, because like it's impressive. And even still, with all the guys they lost, they're returning the most all pros in the NFL next year.
Yep.
Talent is not the problem for this football team. The problem with this football team has been for years that they're just not disciplined enough. And a lot of that came from the defensive side of the football. How many
Yes.
times was it just like, man, 3rd and 5, Jaron Kershaw jump off sides against San Francisco, and they're able to score, and it turns off the game. It turns around the game instead of, oh, 3rd and 5, we stop them. We're getting the ball back. Nope, they get a fresh set of downs. It's like so many times it was big spot, third down. And even if they didn't commit a bulk of penalties in a game, it's like, even if they were to commit 5 penalties, it's just like, man, you're kind of committing these penalties in like the most inopportune times, and it's killing us right now. So I feel like with the Mike Zimmer coming in here, at the very least, I think this defense will be more disciplined. And because they will be more disciplined, I think that paves the way for them to be a better defense than they've been under Dan Quinn, who, just one last point about this, I feel like Dan Quinn was perfect for this defense in 2021. And the reason why I say that is because Dan Quinn's defense, with the high volume of turnovers that they got, it works when your defense has some holes on it. But when you're the Cowboys defense from last year, where like they really didn't have that many holes, like I feel like if they would have used their personnel properly, instead of, putting Leighton Vander Esch at defensive end and, Marquise Bell fitting the B gap, like I feel like they could have been a lot better defense than what they were last year.
So, okay, I've got 2 points that I want to build off of exactly what you just said there. Okay. So number one, I'm gonna agree. Number 2, I'm gonna provide like a devil's advocate sort of alternate take that's kind of similar to what you're saying, but something that's even more pressing to me. So number 1, I just wanted to agree with you on the front of the discipline part of the defense, right? My whole thing is, I've just been trying to simplify this and make it as easy for fans to process as possible. Okay. It's not hard. Like so people look at the departures and free agency from this roster and, parlay that with the additions, right? The departures drastically outweigh the additions. Okay. But to your point, they're still bringing back the most all pros. Okay. I agree. But so my thing is, it's not hard to be better stopping the run than you were a year ago. It is not hard to be better running the football than you did a year ago. Okay. Now, here's where I push back against, and I don't have any issue with you saying your biggest issue for the defense is their discipline, right? The penalties, inopportune times, right? I get that. I'm there with you. To me, though, regardless of how talented your roster is on both sides of the football, for this particular team, it is predominantly on the perimeter of the field. The field, like it's corners, it's safeties, it's your quarterback, it's your receiver, all that type of thing. Like, now, granted, Tyler Smith, that's a different story up front. Now, the problem, though, is, for me, more so than the discipline, it's you were so badly out physicaled anytime you played a quality opponent that was well coached and could execute a game plan, i.e., the Buffalo Bills, the Green Bay Packers, the San Francisco 49ers. The pushback for me on behalf of the front office, as good of a job as they have done and with their evaluation and their draft and just kind of putting talent on the field, it's the most one-dimensional, really good football team I've ever seen. And that is a direct indictment on the front office and on the defensive coaching staff. And even Mike McCarthy as well, because, he was tasked with solving the running game last year. He couldn't do it. The Cowboys, they went West Coast, very, very heavy West Coast early on in the season. And then you see there was a very clear line of delineation when Mike McCarthy defaulted and said, "Okay, Dak, this is on you, buddy. Go save us." And we reverted right back to just the Air Coryell principles and the attacking, stretching the field vertically. Once we kind of handed Dak the reins again, because Mike McCarthy was like, "All right, this ain't working." Now so I agree with you that there is a ton of talent still on this team. Okay. But talent be damned. If you're one dimensional, it does not matter. If you can't be physical up front and stop the run, and you can't be physical up front and run the football, 8 all pros does nothing for you. Micah Parsons is irrelevant when you stick him at left defensive end and he's getting shoulders and elbows and running backs and tight ends and receivers and offensive tackles, double teaming him in his rib cage, in his, under his chin strap, right? He's not built for that. He's not an edge setting edge. He's an off-ball backer that's one of the most talented pass rushers that we've ever seen. Okay, but setting the edge from the edge against a team that wants to run the football and go downhill at you and will commit to it, even when they're not predominantly, like even when their offense doesn't thrive that way, i.e. Buffalo Bills, the Buffalo blueprint, right? How useful is Micah Parsons to you?
Not that useful at all.
They ran the ball 49 times for 300 yards.
And to be honest with you, a lot of some of their struggles in their run game came when Micah Parsons was on the field, because he's not like, I said this on the Cowboys Can Fan last week. Like when it comes to Micah Parsons in big games, people are making such a big deal out of like, oh, well, Micah Parsons is average in big games because this coordinator said he was. And I said, there is truth to that. And the reason why is because Micah Parsons is an average run defender. And when you're in big games, you play good coordinators. Good coordinators want nothing to do with throwing into a secondary with Bland and all the guys you have and getting attacked by Micah Parsons. Yeah. We're good. We're going to run the ball. And when we'll condense
the formation, we'll go 12, 13 personnel at you. We'll double team Micah and triple team him sometimes, and then we'll run right at him.
And they'll go 12 and 13 personnel, and Dallas won't match their personnel. So that's like another thing that happens in those situations.
So that there is an indictment on the front office as well. They didn't, they signed Rashaan Evans. He never saw the field for some inexplicable reason. I still can't figure that one out. But number two, allowing Mazi Smith to drop 40 pounds. When you drafted him to fill that void, you already knew that you struggled stopping the run before his arrival, right? That's why you traded for Jonathan Hankins the year before that, because you were like, oh, snap, we don't have a one technique body type that can just, we can put in the middle of the formation and say, hey, don't move, eat blocks so our linebackers can flow. They had to trade for him. And then they drafted, another similar guy that they thought was going to help with the same exact department. They saw how valuable Jonathan Hankins was. They drafted Mazi Smith, and then Dan Quinn wants to turn him into a penetrating 3-tech.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't care what reporter I piss off when I say this. That staff, the Cowboys staff, is the reason why Mazi Smith lost that weight, because they weigh in every week.
You saw that. They tried to spin it. That ain't on them.
They tried to spin that. They weigh in on every Thursday. They weigh in. Okay. Yep. And if you're not at a certain weight, you get fined. Now it might be, I don't know the exact, particulars when it comes to this. Like maybe if you're over a certain weight, maybe that's when you get fined. But at the same time, like they're getting his weight. They know they're like, you don't see on the scale, like, oh, well, wait, he's losing all this weight. Like maybe we should tell him to stop because it's going to, affect his game. Because here's the thing, right? When we talk about the two defensive tackles from last draft that a lot of people like to compare to each other because they play for rival teams and they were two of the highest graded defensive tackles in the 2023 draft. That's Mazi Smith and that's Jalen Carter. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me put this into perspective for people. If the Philadelphia Eagles asked Jalen Carter, hey, gain 30 pounds. We know that you're a pass rushing 3 technique. We're going to have you be a run stopping 1 technique. Okay. So there are 2 things when it comes to, any sport in general. What's your best athletic trait and what's your best skill trait? Athletic trait for Jalen Carter in this instance is his quickness. If you make him gain weight, well, he's not going to be as quick. He's not going to be as effective because he's not being his best athletic trait isn't being maximized. And if you're asking him, hey, his skill trait that is the best for him is his ability to rush the passer. Well, if you're telling him, hey, we just want you to hold up blocks, be a one technique, do one tech things, you
Yeah.
know, he's not going to be nearly the player that he was, you know? So when they ask Mozzie Smith, hey, lose this weight. Okay, so his best athletic trait is his strength.
Strength and power.
You're now compromising that. And, you know, now you're asking him to rush the passer. Like, that's not his deal there.
Not what he did.
So
And yeah.
it's like I don't feel like they maximized him as a player. Like I feel like they had buyer's remorse about the pick, because it's not necessarily like the Cowboys are one of these teams that like they do go by the Bible of you draft premium positions early. And you know, the fact that they drafted a run stopping one technique, it was a departure from what they did. And I felt like they had
a philosophical change. Exactly. I was hyped about that because it signified change. Like exactly.
And I feel like they had buyer's remorse. Like they didn't love what they bought, even though if they would have just kind of just stuck it out and actually played him in the way that he played in Michigan, he would have been fine. Like I don't think I missed on the evaluation of Mozzie Smith. I really don't. It's just that when he got to the NFL, he was being asked to do something that's completely different from what he did in college.
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, in a lot of ways, and I haven't heard anybody mention this since it happened, but you know, it's like the conventional wisdom of, you talked about positional value, right? The defensive tackle position isn't really considered one of the core 5 positions, right? As, in terms of value, right? So the Cowboys started to generate, like immediately when they drafted Mozzie last year, that national media blew up mocking them for, you know, taking a non-pass rushing prototype in the first round. Okay. I think Will McClay knew what he was doing with that selection. He knew what the team needed. And I think that they had the right plan in place for Mozzie Smith. But what did Will McClay do immediately after? Like, I don't know if it was the post-draft presser. I think it was actually. So it was about, you know, 3 days after they drafted Mozzie, they go on the post-draft presser, and Will McClay starts talking about how they think that he has the potential to become a pass rusher. So it's almost like trying to validate the decision to draft Mozzie Smith when you took him knowing that you needed help in the run stopping department, not the pass rushing department, right? You already excelled in that. That's your area of strength, right? You drafted Mozzie Smith because he was different. He was a true 330-pound run stuffer, a block eater, just a force in the middle. Somebody that you really only had one other body type like that, and that was the guy that you traded for, Jonathan Hankins. Okay, but then they tried to almost, it's like prove themselves, to prove a point, like to prove that it was worth it to take him there and like turn him into a pass rusher, almost as if to just kind of like, it's like an aha moment, like an I told you so type thing, where they're flexing their muscle against, you know, national media, as opposed to just sticking to their original plan with them. And so in the thing, I'm going to pull up this overlay right here so the viewers can see. This was my most recent video that, you know, it's about the post-draft press conference from this year, 2024, right? And so go check that out. This is what I'm about to discuss is in there. Oh, you know what? How do I get back to seeing our beautiful faces? Undo. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it up there for right now, and I'll figure that out. But
go to the overlay and then just click over the picture and then just press remove.
Yeah, I did that already. It went away, but that's fine. I'll figure it out in a second.
Okay, cool.
So they go in, and you can hear numerous times Will McClay, Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones, they reference the old regime in a roundabout way, and you can tell they felt some type of way about DQ and his staff and his plan for Mozzie Smith, and you know, you can just kind of you can sense some of the professional and respectful animosity, if that makes sense. So,
oh yeah, we have when we go over the Zimmer interview from the other day, there's definitely some very interesting things said. Oh, am I in the show? Cool. There we go. Yeah, there was some very interesting things that were said during this interview with Mike Zimmer, to where, like, you know, it's almost like, yeah, you're taking a shot at Dan Quinn there. You're not being subtle about it either.
100%. 100%.
So
So, okay, let's actually, there was another comment. I guess I wanted to go ahead and address this comment right here too. Native Texan, he says Mozzie's got his weight back up. That should help in the middle. I like having him Zim back. Agree with the second part big time. I think Mike Zimmer, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. This is a perfect segue. It is a great thing to get an old school guy like him back, a no nonsense dude that will reinstill the discipline that Chris was talking about earlier, and also sort of, utilize his personnel to the best of their abilities. And Mozzie Smith will be at the forefront of that discussion. But the problem with Mozzie Smith is they've made that process a little bit more difficult, right? As far as him taking that next step, he's had shoulder surgery this offseason. So technically his weight is improved from where he was at the end of last season, inexplicably going from 330 to 295. He's about 305 right now. And that was a direct quote, I think, from Zimmer himself. So he's not quite there, but he's on his way. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. And
so on banners, there's nothing left. An overlay. Let me just try to do a different one.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So now, yeah.
Live with StreamYard, and boom, there we go.
It was like it was just frozen for a second, so I just had to add a new one and then take that one down too. But we're all good.
Cool.
Let's get back to some of these comments here real quick. Chiefs wanted to trade up to get Mozzie. Exactly. Feed that man. I just hope Zim sticks to his word and uses Micah like a chest. Bingo. Okay, so Chevy, that's a great discussion. One that I'm passionate about too. And again, part of the indictment on the coaching staff, the front office, whoever you want to point the finger at. But like last year, teams committed to running the football at you. Micah Parsons did you no good sticking him at the edge. His first superpower is rushing the passer. His second is pursuing the ball carrier from the middle of the field or the second level to where you can't scheme around him. And that was 100%. The thing that's just like, it felt so just insane to me to just like say, okay, well, you can't take Micah off the edge because he's such an elite pass rusher, right? You can't sacrifice your pass rush. But when you're so one-dimensional, you have to earn the right to rush.
Yes.
So it was just, to me, it was just weird that they wouldn't. It was almost like a level of hard-headedness that they just couldn't get past. And there was an unwillingness to even try to adjust. And put Sam Williams on the field. He's more of your pass rushing guy anyway. Like, he's not known for his ability to set the edge. In fact, he's actually early on in his career in the minimal reps, he's got that he's in fifth gear automatically. And sometimes he gets upfield too fast. But still, he's more equipped to handle life in the run game on the edge than, say, Marquise Bell was equipped to handle life in the run game on the second level, if that makes sense.
Ooh, let's talk about Sam Williams. I want to talk about him real quick.
Go.
I think under Mike Zimmer, if I'm Sam Williams, I'm doing the Jalen Tolbert approach that he did last year with Brian Schottenheimer, where he was hip to hip with him the entire time. Sam Williams commits to learning under Mike Zimmer, he's going to beat Danielle Hunter. I'm telling you, he has better traits than Danielle Hunter did. Okay. Sam Williams led the country in sacks in the SEC, playing out of a 3-3-5 defense. Yeah. He is, I'm telling you, like, he could be, if he reaches his ceiling, he could be an all-pro player. That's how good he is. Like, you talk about, he has all the traits in the world to be a top flight defensive end. Physically, we got to see what's between the ears here. But like, man, when I look at, like, there is no, like, all right, he has this, but he doesn't have that. Like, no, like, when you talk about, he's physical as hell, but he's fast and he's strong. He doesn't give up anything from either of those departments. Yep. Like, I feel like if he commits to the coaching from Mike Zimmer and he says, I'm an open book, teach me everything you know.
Yep.
That guy is going to be a borderline all-pro defensive end. That's how highly I think of him. But, it's all about, is he going to commit to the style of coaching that Mike Zimmer is going to bring? And if he doesn't, there's a very real possibility that this might be his last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think that's there's a I think Marshawn Nealand, he's an interesting discussion here too. He's sort of the contingency, and not necessarily that he's directly connected to Sam Williams, because I think their skill sets are vastly different at this point in their careers. I think Mike Zimmer probably has a much different vision for each of them in 2024. But Marshawn Nealand, man,
Impressive.
To Chevy's point a second ago, like, I hope they use him as the chess piece. He, to me, is what unlocks that ability. So, like, if you run into a team like you did last year, seeing the Bills and even the Packers in the postseason, you name it, whatever the case, if a team wants to try to get physical and eliminate Micah's pass rush ability from the equation and just try to go downhill, well, guess what? Now you've got a bona fide, like, NFL ready, strong, edge setting dude that can come in and you can just say, hey, man, play the run. Put Micah Parsons on the second level, line him up, go Duracell, and he can pursue from the middle or the second level, whatever you want to do, right? But you can't. So Marshawn Nealand is the contingency. He's, I commend them for that for most of this draft. Really, there's a lot that I love about this draft, but Marshawn Nealand frees up Micah to be that chess piece that Chevy and so many other Cowboys fans have been asking for since halfway through the season last year when you had a 205-pound undrafted free agent safety playing off-ball backer for you.
And here's the thing, like with Micah Parsons playing more at linebacker, the need to go out and get like a difference-making one technique goes out the window. You just need a guy who's going to be able to hold up blocks. You don't even need to keep Micah Parsons clean to the extent that you would have to keep other linebackers clean. Like that Miami game, there was a rep that he had. He split the two guards. They were trying to get hands on him, couldn't, and he got in the backfield. And I think it was like a negative 1 yard gain for or negative 1 yard loss for Miami on that particular rep. Like,
yeah. Keep going. I'm going to see if I have that clip. I actually use that in one of my projects. I'm going to see if I can pull it up for people. Go ahead.
His rookie season was his best season so far. And the reason why that was his best season is because he was used all around the formation. Dan Quinn had to be creative that season because of the lack of personnel that they had on that team. Micah Parsons that season to me was the best defensive player in football. I understand that TJ Watt won Defensive Player of the Year. I don't care. Micah Parsons elevated everybody around him. That defense was really good that year because Micah Parsons was elite as hell. And, like when you look at the previous season, that defense was one of the worst defenses in football. But they add Micah Parsons and what he's able to do with that defense to where it's like, all right, we're going to put you on the edge for this rep. All right, we're going to put you at off-ball linebacker. We're going to put you, standing over the center in the A gap.
Because especially in the season, right?
Oh, I think I saw this. I think,
yeah. Well, I don't know if this is the right one. It's one of these where I just wanted people to see the play, the specific play that you're talking about here, because it's just, I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't see
things,
that play and
see what others
tell me that you don't want to see more of
playoff
that.
Time. You want your
coming from him. It's just
that was week. I think that was week 16.
Yeah, I don't.
I could definitely pull up that rep. I can definitely find that rep here. Because that play was, I mean, just showed you what this guy can provide you from that.
Like the keywords is always interesting, like from the way that I worded the particular tweet that I'm looking for,
Dude, you want to know it's so upsetting. They should have won that football game.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that game really pissed me off. I can definitely find this one because I do think it is a really good point of emphasis. Run, negative 1 yard run. Okay, I think this is it.
You find it?
I think I might have found it. Yep, he's lined up at off-ball linebacker. Oh, here we go. I found it.
You found it?
I found it. Yep, I'm gonna
You want to
share
send it to me, or can you pull it up from your end?
Oh yeah, I can pull it up from my end.
Okay, go. Let me stop sharing my screen so you can share yours.
And then
yeah, while he's getting that pulled up, just wanted to continue to elaborate on that a little bit, right? The thing that I've just been trying to get people to understand, those who are still all aboard Micah's got to stay. He's got to be entrenched at edge full time. You got to earn the right to rush the passer first and foremost, right? And teams have already they showed you on 2 different examples last year in which they can completely eliminate from the equation and still control the line of scrimmage, control the time of possession, and control the entire football game. So Micah's 2 superpowers, though, rushing the quarterback and pursuing the ball carrier from either the middle of the field or the second level. His superpower is not setting the edge from the edge and stopping the run, like playing the run strong side, play side. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole point of this.
I had to take a picture of this because just look at how ridiculous this defense looks. Look at who's playing right defensive end here. That's Damone Clark. Look who's playing. Look at the other guys.
Gosh. Yeah, so you've got
Donovan Wilson, defensive back. Marquise Bell, defensive back. Jordan Lewis, defensive back. Like that's your
Malik. It looks like Malik Hooker back there too.
Yeah. You got Deron Bland there. That dude. Oh
and then
God,
even your insert looks like that's Mozzie and then Osa. So you really have one guy on the field right there that's over 280 pounds.
And exactly. Yeah. And so, I mean, look at this play right here. I mean, just look at Parsons. I mean, just splitting this double team. I mean, they're trying to get hands on him. I mean, that's just.
There was another one where he's pursuing from the middle of the field, the second level as well. And it's the play is to the left. So to Micah's right. And he just navigates and he ends up almost like whipping somebody by the front of their shoulder pad. I think it was Raheem Mostert. But that play was just as
I want to find
ridiculous, man.
I want to find another play because it's not going to show up. Like nobody's going to look at him and be like, "Oh, what a crazy play here." But it was very impactful. Like, okay, boom, here we go. Here's another play. I don't know if it's still. Yep, it's still sharing here. So you see Micah Parsons lined up here, right?
Here we go.
Right, so he gets taken out of the play. But look, I want to go back to show everybody this. Because so much attention is being drawn his way, he takes 2 guys out of the play. Look at how clean the 2 guys that end up making the tackle are. By the way, look at DeMarcus Lawrence here. 3 guys. He takes 3 guys out of the play, right? Now Sam Williams comes backside. He's clean as a whistle. Damone Clark ends up coming up. God, I hate how Damone Clark attacks the football. I mean, just look at Damone Clark attacking.
You can see there's a level of trepidation. He's much more inclined to run around
instead of just
stacking and trying to meet that blocker head on, and it's some of that's philosophical, right? A lot of DQ's principles, and I talked about this with Ben. It was kind of interesting to hear his perspective on that, right? But a lot of
shout out to Ben, great, does great work, man.
He does, and he's starting to get the recognition that he deserves too. But it was over pursue in a way to get like almost to induce cutbacks and things like that. Hearing him explain it was kind of interesting. It challenged my perspective a bit, but. Damone Clark, though, to me, when I watch him on film and stuff, it's just so eerily similar to what we saw when Leighton Vander Esch wasn't right. Just not trusting the health and just your spine, man. And it just, to me, he plays like he's got that weighing on his subconscious. So, and that, that play that you just showed there, let me get the full screen back pulled up so we can see ourselves a little bit better. But
there we go.
That play that you just showed is kind of a direct example of that, to where he's taking himself out of his run fit to not get hit head on by a lead blocker. So that's just the type of thing that you can't have. And, once again, like we talked about Marshawn Nealon's impact on this team, and the potential that he'll have even in year one, right? Because he does something that only really DeMarcus Lawrence is the only other guy on your roster that's proven the capability to do, right? So you definitely help yourself in the run department there, but also now Maris Lufau, that's a guy, regardless of what you say about his ability to, just be your all-encompassing potential future Mike Backer, right? Calling the plays. That's another thing too. We need to talk about Zimmer calling him. What did he say? He's brilliant,
dude. I'm telling you, dude.
To hear a guy like Mike Zimmer, as hard-nosed, the reputation that dude has, as old school as he is, to hear him call a rookie brilliant, it rolled off the tongue. Like, that wasn't a mistake.
Dude, I'm telling you this right now. Maris Lufau, they're gonna have packages for him, and when you're in that double A, pass, like third and long, like passing situations, your two responsibilities as a linebacker is to either blitz or drop back in coverage. Two things that Maris Lufau did very well at Notre Dame:
That's
blitz,
exactly right.
Drop back in coverage. So, will he? I think Eric Kendricks will probably be the guy on early downs that you see on the field more often. But when you want to get juice out of attacking the quarterback with a blitz, I think that's where you'll see Maris and, learning behind, because I think Mike Zimmer is going to be here for years to come. Because I think, Brian Broaddus said it, and I'm going to second what Brian Broaddus said. Mike Zimmer is going to save Mike McCarthy's job. This defense is going to play at a very high level. And because of that, this team will exceed expectations. That's just how highly I think of Mike Zimmer and there are some other people that I know just outside of, Cowboys land that, somebody who's played in the NFL, who ran in with Zimmer before.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that I really respect that sing I'll send you a video of one of the guys singing the praises of Mike Zimmer. This guy, I really think, is what the doctor ordered. And, we'll get into his interview right here. I think he has a few things, and then we'll definitely talk about the schedule as well, because I'm sure people are wondering. But I definitely want to get into this Mike Zimmer interview while we're talking about him. So I'm going to share the screen here.
So one more time, while you're getting this pulled up, I want to make sure that people that they just hear me very clearly. And this is, once again, this is my opinion, but this is as objectively honest as I can possibly be. It is not hard to be better in 2024 stopping the run than you were last year. You put if you played a game, if we fly to Cleveland, we get on that plane and head to Cleveland tomorrow, you put Marshawn Nealon on the field instead of in Micah Parsons' position. You put Micah Parsons on the field in Marquise Bell's position. You put Eric Kendricks on the field in Damone Clark's position. Those three players right there on the field, you are a better much better run-stopping defense with, alongside like having Osa on the field, having D-Law on the field. You are better tomorrow with those three guys added to your defense and on your field than you were a year ago stopping the run. I promise you.
Yeah. Oh, no, dude, I 100% agree. And again, I think they're probably going to go out and sign Linval Joseph because, he does have some familiarity with Mike Zimmer's scheme. And if all he's good for is just taking up blocks, that's completely fine. That's all
you need. That's all you need him to do.
Especially when you have the linebackers that you're going to have on this team, because I think Mike is going to play more at linebacker. But let's
I'm glad we agree there. I think so too.
The interview's pulled up. So if there's any part that you want me to stop at, just let me know, because there's a lot here that
they're actually.
It's like I never left.
I actually, you took the words right out of my mouth. No, but seriously, obviously a different setting than how they feel to be back here, not Valley Range, but here.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, this place is unbelievable with the with everything that they have here, all the facilities, and it's good to see a lot of people that I know and that I knew, a lot more people than I knew, the first day. I've been able to run around and see people that were here when I was here. So it's been pretty good.
Can you talk about your working relationship with McCarthy? I know you guys knew each other from coaching against each other, but being on the field and being in the building together, how's that going?
It's gone good. Yeah, he spends a lot of time with the offense, but he comes in and we sit down and talk about scheme and players and situations and things like that. So yeah, it's been good.
Mike, what you miss the most about being away from the game?
Probably being around the players. Like this last couple of weeks when we go out here, we're doing the phase 2 stuff. It's been a lot of fun to get out with the players and start to understand them and try to teach them as much as I can about, not just their position, but the other positions and why we do certain things. I think that's been the best part.
You haven't been able to.
I want to stop there. That is so big. That's so big because it's, yes, at the end of the day, when it comes to football, it's all about doing your job. But when you understand how other people do their job and how you doing your job can help other people and how other people doing their job can help you, it just brings I think that puts you in a much better position just as a team to play with cohesion. Because one thing that I think the Cowboys kind of struggled with, especially down the stretch and especially in some of these big games where the defense really, let loose, talking about like Seattle, Buffalo, some of these really bad spots that they were in. I feel like there was a lack of communication. I feel like there was a lack of discipline. And it wasn't even just like, lack of discipline, lack of communication on the back end and secondary. It's just like, even on the front end, it's just like, all right, like why are you jumping a gap, Micah? Or why are we stunting here? Like we're calling our own stunts. Like Mike Zimmer is not going to have any of that.
Nope.
Mike Zimmer is not going to allow these guys to call their own stunts. And, that to me, hearing him say that, like, I'm big on details. I'm huge on details. And I think that the Cowboys defense last year just lacked, attention to detail. And just by hearing him say, hey, we want you to understand the position next to you, the position in front of you, the position behind you, and understand why people are doing what they're doing and where you fit into that.
Yep. And so beyond that too, it's like, that's part of the old school philosophy for coaches like Mike Zimmer, who they are going to demand discipline, right? Discipline pre-snap, discipline in your run fits, discipline with, coverage responsibilities, and especially zone. Like you've got to have, zone coverage is the toughest form of coverage just because there's so much communication involved. But, he's not going to tolerate any of that. And, another thing that I love too is he's not like why it's such a good, just the trend. Like he could not be more polar opposite personality, coach, priority as far as scheme and philosophy goes than Dan Quinn. They are two completely opposite guys for the most part. And so, and one of the most classic examples of that and the most telling things that you can point to just to help you contextualize that thought process is where they are when the game is being played. Mike Zimmer is on the field. He wants to be hands-on. He wants to, see, feel, understand the emotions that guys are going through right now, but he wants to be able to walk them through it, hands-on approach, where they messed up, what they did well, whatever the case, and solve that problem right now. You can't do that from the booth. Maybe you have a better bird's eye view and you feel like you can see things better, right? Different strokes for different folks. But the discipline and the physicality, and really just if we can make it even simpler than that if we want to, the size and the strength that's going to be on the field this year with Mike Zimmer, you parlay that with his tough-nosed mentality and the accountability that'll inevitably come from an old school style coach being on the sideline with these guys. There's less time on the sideline for them to be slapdicking around, for lack of a better term. Right? It's going to be focused. It's going to be intense from kickoff to the final whistle. And so that's one of the things that I'm really excited to see with Mike. Just the stark different, like the difference in philosophies. from DQ. And I think he immediately upgrades just by his style, what he wants to put on the field and the way that he wants to play it. You're better at where you were completely one-dimensional last year. You're instantly upgrading the run, the ability to stop the run. And that's one of the things I love about it.
And here's the thing, right? Like we talk about Zimmer's tough nose type of mentality when it comes to coaching. Brian Broaddus said this on Love of the Star with Bobby Belt. He said, don't be surprised if you see instances where Micah Parsons and Mike Zimmer are getting into it on the sidelines and you see, you know, like a camera looking over there. Don't be surprised if that's the case.
Oh, I want that. I want that.
I want that as well. I want that as well. Because these are two very passionate guys, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with confrontation, you know?
Yep.
And it's just you see, like with Mike Zimmer in these interviews that he's doing, he strikes me as a very confident person.
No doubt. No doubt.
And to me, like, you know, when it came to Dan Quinn, I'm not saying he's not confident, but what I'm saying is in some of his interviews, it almost felt like he was trying to sell you on something.
Yeah.
Where like Mike Zimmer, you hear it in his interviews and he's just like, yep, this is how we do things.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't like it? Too bad.
Yep. See, here's the thing, and maybe this is a better way to sum up my overall feelings on DQ in regards to the Cowboys situation, right? I think he's a fantastic coach in a lot of ways. Like he's kind of a all or nothing type of guy, right? He's a penetrating. He wants to get after the quarterback and he wants to be aggressive. I respect that, okay? But his personality, his philosophy could not have been a worse marriage for the Cowboys' particular personnel last year.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Just where DQ wants to be good, where you know, he was a personable guy. Like he's a great personality, well-spoken, like charismatic dude, outgoing, friendly, right? But this team, they didn't struggle with, you know, all the quote unquote country club Cowboys type, all the things that kind of go along with being a pretty boy, right? They needed less pretty boy. They needed more FU on their roster with their demeanor defensively. And D-Law, to me, was the only guy that I saw bringing that every single snap, every single week.
Oh, yeah.
So you need, if D-Law is out there and he, you know, clearly just his philosophy, D-Law's intensity isn't enough to overcome the other 10 who are out there on the field with him. And I'm not trying to single anybody. I'm not trying to, there's a lot of credit that's due. I'm just generally speaking, right? He's unable to overcome that if the guys that are being put on the field aren't, if that's not mandated starting at the top. You know what I'm saying? So it's got to come from the coach first and foremost. There's only so much player coaching that can happen on the field and you know, in between the lines in the field of battle. So that's got to come from the top. And I think that's just it's going to be such a good thing. Like you've already got the aggressiveness and the talent on the perimeter. Now you parlay that with just literally changing up your intensity and your approach to stopping the run. Good things can happen, man. Now my one question is, how difficult will it be for, you know, like I said, it's not going to be difficult for them to be better stopping the run. Okay. But how long will it take for all the other 10 not named Eric Kendricks and, you know, but maybe Linval Joseph, depending on what happens there, right, who aren't familiar with this system, right? It's a completely different language. Let's be honest about the situation, right? Like from what they're used to, all these guys have played under DQ for the last 3-4 years. So, I mean, I guess I'll just ask you, like, are you worried about that, the acclimation period to the new language, or do you think that Eric Kendricks is enough to offset that? Maybe it takes a few weeks, but, you know, a few weeks getting acclimated and figuring yourself out, that's normal for every single team, every single year, both sides of the ball. Like there's a feeling out process that happens, especially now that, you know, preseason games and things are a lot less, you know, prominent towards just the grand scheme, right? So you're doing a lot of figuring it out on the fly when the regular season begins. So are you concerned about that at all, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, you know, here's my thing. Is it like a long-term concern? Like, do I think like by the end of the season they could be familiar with the system? Absolutely. Short term, absolutely. Like I'm concerned about it because they were so used to playing a certain style that now that they're being asked to, hey, you can play at 110%, but if you're going to play at 110%, keep your head on straight, and it feels like a lot of what Dan Quinn wanted to do is just attack, go 10 miles an hour, just let it all out. Right.
Yep.
But it's like now I feel like this is a more structured defense. And I feel like the guys through the first part of the season will have a little bit of an adjustment period with the structure of the defense. Like I preach patience to anybody listening to this right now. Be patient with this defense. It might not be what you want it to be week one.
Yeah,
it's
not going to be. Period.
It's not going to be. Like we're going to see some things that we might say like, oh, I don't know about this, but in the grand scheme of things, the style that Mike Zimmer wants to play, that's conducive to success in the postseason. And the reason why I say that is because like Mike Zimmer got that Minnesota Vikings team with Case Keenum to the NFC Championship.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So let's continue on with this interview here.
Get your hands on Mozzie yet, obviously, with him coming off of this deal. But what do you expect for this year, and what are you looking for from him?
Well, obviously he was a high draft pick, and I heard that he kind of struggled a little bit last year. So, we're going to start with the basics, get him in a good stance, get him in, using his hands the right way, getting his footwork the right way, and then kind of go from there. I talked to him a little bit, I guess it was yesterday, and he said, I asked him what weight he feel comfortable at, and so we got to get him to that point first, and then, get his strength back, and then, we'll let him go out here on the field, and we anticipate that he's going to be a good player like he was in college, but that's how we have to go.
Your system will have him be asked to do similar things than what he did in college.
Yeah,
I think you can get off philosophy. Jeff was just talking about is just different. Can you kind of elaborate as to kind of why he might be more comfortable with what you are prepared to ask of him?
Well, that's kind of what he did in college. He lost a lot of weight when he got here, and he was trying to be a attacking three technique to get up the field, and we're going to probably play blocks.
You see the disdain in his voice when he said that.
Try not to get.
I know. Yeah, we'll talk about that. When
he's literally saying as he's saying that he's like laughing at the stupidity.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to that, bro. I thought the same thing.
Reach, so linebackers know where they're supposed to fit, and so on and so forth. So, I guess that's the biggest thing.
What's the next step that Micah Parsons needs?
Dude, that is
crazy, man.
That's so funny to me. Like you could just because here's the thing. I can only imagine Mike Zimmer going in the film room and watching this defense play last year and seeing some of the shit crap that
it's safe. It's safe.
Okay. Seeing some of the shit that Dan Quinn was asking this defense to do. It's like, all right, like they're playing 12 personnel. Maybe we should match personnel here. Maybe we shouldn't come out and nickel or dime here. Like, I don't know. You have Damone Clark playing on the edge. Why is Leighton Vander Esch playing on the edge? Like what? There's just so much that I think he looked at on film that he was just like, because he's not with the cute stuff that Dan Quinn tried to do. He's not that like. And
he alluded to it too. I don't have any timestamps for like I didn't take the notes yet on when he's saying all these things, but he mentioned that he's like, nah, we're gonna play gap, sound gap integrity football. Like we're not gonna be sitting here trying to get up the field. We're gonna make teams beat us. You're gonna have to try a lot harder to beat us on the ground this year than you did a year ago. It can't be that easy. Otherwise, you can't win in the postseason.
And here's the thing, right? Like when we talk about this team calling their own stunts, like it's the amount of times they stunted was to their disadvantage because like a lot of times, like when you're stunning during a rundown, there's a very good possibility that you're doing the offensive lineman's job for them. It's like you stunt to a certain spot, it's like, oh. Thanks for going there. I'm
Well,
just gonna
you're
steal you off.
aiding their leverage. You're
Yeah.
aiding their leverage just by not having 2 feet anchored into the ground and being powerful and square, right? When you're stunting, you're off balance a little bit and you're not anchored. So yeah, I mean, it's just easy for a 325-pound offensive lineman to just continue like assisting with the direction that you're going, just throwing you out of the play, you know? And I think that's a lot of what Zimmer's referring to here as well.
Yeah, dude, me and Okoye talked about this the other day. I don't think that there was a single team that got worked by the pin pole more than Dallas. I
Well-
never want to see that play again.
Yep. Yep. I mean, look at, they say, okay, if Micah Parsons is on the edge, opposite D-Law, we're just going to run right at Micah every time. We'll chip him, we'll condense the formation, and your guys aren't big enough to push us out of the way. All we have to do is crack and you're stuck.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, Micah Parsons, as talented, as athletic, as powerful as he is relative to his size, he's an undersized edge. Like, this is an off-ball backer that we're talking
100%.
about. So that's just not the way he was built. He obviously he thrives on the move. He's a lion. He wants to go hunt, and so I don't want to be a dead horse.
Speaking of Micah, I think they actually talk about him here with this question.
Yeah.
What's the next step that Micah Parsons needs to take?
Let me get the full.
I guess that's the biggest thing.
What's the next step that Micah Parsons needs to take as a player?
Well, they don't have to take many steps. I think, as we're just sitting up there again this morning talking about other things we can do with him, and he's such a dynamic player that I said this the other day that the offenses are always going to know where he's at, and so they're going to turn protections to him. They're going to have the back help chip no matter what it is. And a lot of the games he played last year that I watched, the offenses had a good scheme where they get 2 tight ends on him and all those things. So we're gonna obviously gonna move him around, doing different things with him, but we're gonna use him some ways where we're getting the protection turned the way we want it turned, and then able to win on the other side. And there's sometimes we're gonna try to overload a protection where he gets a one-on-one.
You encourage the sumo wrestling training technique?
Yeah, he could have done that with me probably.
You obviously big focus on stop and run. You got your
Oh, I thought the quote was here. He says something else later in this interview where it's just like, all right, you're definitely taking a shot at Dave Quinn here. Oh man, I can't wait to play the Commanders. I can't wait to play that team. I really can't. I really can't wait to play them. Yeah, no, I mean, stuff that you talked about, the 12 personnel, the 2 tight ends, like,
yeah,
we'll probably talk more about Micah going into this interview, but it's just like, yeah, when you stick him at a certain just right defensive end, play there, you're taking away his superpower. Like, he talks about, hey, if you line him up in the A gap, now teams don't know, like, all right, is he going to blitz? Is he going to drop back in coverage? Like, he is the main focal point of their protection. Like, their protection assignments are going to be predicated off where Micah Parsons is. And the fact that
he's accounted for on every down.
He's accounted for on every down. So the fact that not only do I believe, because here's the thing, like, just some like technical football stuff, I'm sure you know this, but just for anybody who doesn't know this, like, when you're playing center, you have to snap and then set, as opposed to when you're playing guard or tackle, it's just get off, set.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that already you're at a disadvantage as a center because you have to snap and you have that brief moment between snapping and setting your hands, like, that's the difference with a guy like Micah Parsons, to where he's able to get leverage from, like, now it's like, all right, I have to snap, set, and instead of blocking Jonathan Hankins, I have to block Micah Parsons, and he's like 10 times quicker than Jonathan Hankins.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's well said, man.
So, you got anything else to add to this, or you want to hop?
No, I was looking for a tweet because I forget the exact statistics, but between, Chevy's point, he said Zim's defense was only in the bottom of the league only twice since he's been a defensive coordinator. And that was his last 2 years in Minnesota. Yes. And that was, to build off of that thought. I had a tweet somewhere. I don't know why it's not letting me pull it up. But that was as all of the cornerstone pieces of that defense began to age a little bit, right? For the 2020 and 2021 years, I think it was.
Yep. Anthony Barr, all
Yeah,
those
Anthony
guys.
Barr was
Everson Griffin.
all of them. Everson Griffin and Eric Kendricks and Anderson Dejo. The foundation of that defense, that was like 5-6 years in with all those guys. And so they were kind of past their prime, past their point. But Zimmer in 2017 to 2021 with the Vikings, or maybe it was 2015 to 2020, something like that. He had a top 5 defense, I think 4 of those years. Wow. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to find the exact statistics. I'll get it pulled up here in just a second, but I just wanted to throw that in there as well. It was a good point by Chevy.
Gotcha. And then we'll hop back.
Your inexperience on paper at the defensive line, even with Mozzie.
Right.
Would the scheme gonna make that much of a difference?
Well, I hope so. It's so. My first year as a coordinator, my very first game, we played Philadelphia in the pickle juice game, and we gave up 220 yards. Right, and I was a secondary coach, and my first day as a coordinator, I say, hey, we're going to go, let those guys go up front. We gave up 220 yards. So since that day, from the rest of whatever year that was, 2004 or something, we've concentrated on getting the run stopped rather all the time. Now we want to rush the quarterback too. I mean, but we feel like it's in order to rush the quarterback, you got to stop the run and get him in those kind of situations.
You talked about Mozzie getting. How much is he weigh now? What's his?
And I will say this, Mike Zimmer is a very honest guy.
Yes.
So at the beginning of that question, when he says, well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Like
I love the sarcastic humor there, the dryness of that comment.
Like this is a guy who I think it was Kellen Mond was going to be the quarterback for a game because I think Kirk Cousins got injured. And they were like, how confident are you in Kellen Mond? And he's like, not very. And they're like, aren't you excited to see him in like live action or something like that? And he's like, I see him every day.
Yeah. How does he do that? I can't believe he said that, bro. That was insane.
And he was right though. Kellen Mond was like not good at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I cover Texas, as you know, on the side as well. So I'm obviously partial against
Texas A&M. A&M guy.
Yeah, objectively speaking. No, so I covered Texas. Sorry, I don't know if I said that right, but I'm partial against A&M, and I always I had fun, going back and forth with A&M fans about Sam Ehlinger versus Kellen Mond, and to me, like regardless of what you thought about Sam, I was like, dude, Kellen Mond is not an NFL caliber quarterback. I hate his high pads. It just looked like he would walk around like with like a turtle poking out of its shell. He just didn't look the part to me, and that obviously manifested itself over time. But good athlete, but was not cut out to play that position in this league.
And here's the thing: I do believe that ultimately they're going to go get some veteran defensive tackles for Mike Zimmer because he's letting it be known, like, like I hope I can help this out with the scheme, but like there comes a point where it's like, we do need some Jimmies and Joes here, and like I don't know, like this defense as a whole, like when you look at this defense, if I'm a general manager, I'm salivating at this defense. Like if I'm a prospective general manager getting this job, because I'm saying, all right, we have an elite pass rusher, we have cornerbacks, we have a nice group of linebackers, nice group of safeties. We can improve a little bit on the defensive tackle spot. If there's one spot of your defense that it's easy to improve on, it's at one technique defensive tackle.
Yeah, a veteran run stuffer. Exactly.
Yeah, like those guys get drafted like the top guys get drafted. You start to see those guys come off the board in like the late third round.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for a reason. Like the league doesn't value that position to the extent that, they value other positions.
Part of the problem so I did a project about this today, actually, speaking of covering Texas. It is so every team in the country, we'll stick to college football, but the NFL, it's the same underlying sentiment, right? Every team in the country D1. You can even segment this. So like you go D1, you've got Power Fives, you've got your G5s, you've got your FCSs, and then you go down a level below that. You go, Division 2, Division 3, whatever the case. Every single league in this sport, all across the country, even go JUCO, NAIA, whatever, high school. Every single league is going to have souped up athletes on the perimeter. Okay? There is a surplus of really fast, really athletic skill guys all over the country. There is a pandemic of souped up, powerful, strong, athletic, big guys up front. There is a pandemic of that. There is far less of those guys. And so I think it's to me, it's not so much that the league doesn't value the position. It's just that the really good ones are really few and far between. And so it's just like, we're either taking Byron Murphy in round 1, or we're taking player X from Sacramento State Tech, whatever. And like you said, end of day 3, so it should, to me, it's the lack of the depth at that position that contributes to the things that we're seeing with those tendencies from the league drafting and that position a lot later, most frequently. And like, Quentin Bohanna, for instance, what was he, a 5th round pick?
I believe so, 5th or 6th round, somewhere around those lines.
Day 3, right? Day 3. John Ridgeway, before they cut him, day 3. Who else are we looking at here? Neville Gallimore. I think he was actually a day 2 guy, but still 3 technique, body type, right? It's all Will Steele, Skywalker Steele on his show, A to Z Sports Dallas. If you don't follow him, I don't know what's wrong with you, and I don't know what you're doing. Please go check him out.
He's great. Yeah, he's great.
He did a exercise last year where he pretty much he highlighted all the most productive one techs, like just interior defensive tackles in the league, were all drafted in round 1. Like the top 10 most productive guys, they're day 1 picks, man. You don't find, like I said, you don't find that talent. Like, it's just, there's so few of them, right? And so it's like I said, it's less of in my head. Somebody can prove me wrong if you disagree. Please let me know. But to me, it's just there's a massive pandemic of big men who can play those positions well, right? Every team has speed. Not every team has trench play, and that's for a reason. It's because there's not as nearly as many big guys who are also athletic and powerful and love football and commit to the process, right? So there's only so many Cooper BBs rolling around. There's only so many Chris Jones is walking around the streets. There's only so many Aaron Donalds. There's only so many, you name it. But we can sit here and pull 4.2 speed guys out of our butts all day long. And how many of those guys are even relevant? Not nearly as many. Right. No. So it's just like, speed doesn't necessarily solve all your problems, but the size to talent, like ratio, it's a massive problem. There's a massive there's just
pandemic. Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel you 100%. So let's dive back into this.
His ideal weight that he said he wants to get. How much does he weigh now? And what's his ideal weight?
Mozzie Smith's weight.
Yep.
I think he told me he's like 305 right now, and I'll keep that his ideal weight to me.
Okay, so he's like 330 in college, 325 in college.
Yeah, he thought he was too heavy for that.
Okay.
So
what's the best way for these young guys to make?
Wait, can you run that back 10 seconds?
I got you. Yep.
30 in college at 325 in college.
Yeah, he thought he was too heavy. Ideal weight to me.
Okay, because he was like 330 in college at 325 in college.
Yeah, he thought he was too heavy for that.
Okay.
So
what's the best way?
Mozzie thought he was too heavy?
Yeah. Well, see, here's the thing.
What's he saying there? Because I disagree, but it's not up to me, I guess. Go ahead.
I think this is what happened. This is what could have happened in that particular situation. Maybe Mike Zimmer does want him at that weight, and maybe Mozzie Smith feels good at that weight. But I think what happened was Mike Zimmer knew he got baited into a question, because Clarence Hill is very good at his job.
Oh, he's crafty. The wordplay, he's crafty.
And what Clarence did there was, all right, he's at 305. Hey, this was his weight in college. So people, get that range of, okay, he's not at the weight they want him to be at, but, like, is it between this range and that range? Like, I, I do think Mike Zimmer might have told a little bit of a white lie there because, Clarence Hill did such a good job
Yeah. It's such a
with
well executed question.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm with
I
you.
mean, he was incredible there. So I'll believe Mozzie Smith's way. We'll get the answer on it in about 3 months.
Yep. Yeah, we're gonna know. We're
So
definitely gonna know. Oh, he said
so
group. Okay, this rookie group is so mature. Exactly. Yeah, that was clearly a priority for them. And it was great to see. That's where, and I'm, most people know me as optimistic guy, sometimes to a fault. Like, I'm always the glass half. That's just my nature. That's who I am in every aspect of life. I've always been that way. But even I was very critical, against the front office just for trying to sell the fan base that the salary cap is inhibiting them with some of these
oh,
contracts, when in reality, people don't understand that paying and extending CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, Dak Prescott, that actually saves you money. It doesn't cost you money, at least in the interim, right? I'm talking about 2024. It creates cap space, okay? And also with just them saying that they're going to do one thing and kind of doing the complete opposite, being even less active in free agency and in the trade market than they were a year ago in the offseason. So I was very critical because I was just trying to get them to I wanted to hold them accountable for the things they were saying. I wanted the fans to hear the truth. I wanted to just be as objective as I possibly could. The one thing I can say, everything I want about their approach to team building and free agency and otherwise, they absolutely nailed this draft.
I think so
Because
as
of
well.
the maturity and the physicality. That's the one. So my very first video, and I'll try to pull up the thumbnail for you guys here if y'all are interested in going back to look at it. The very first video that I made this offseason in my postmortem series, it was 16 consecutive weeks of me just, laying it out as simply as I possibly could, as objectively as I possibly could. My direct words were that the Cowboys had to, if they were serious about going all in, which this was before we knew that they weren't going to be in free agency, right? But if they were serious about it in the draft, in free agency, whatever, the trade market, they had to focus on finding guys that are, number one, physical. And actually, it's actually in the reverse order. Number one, how much do you love football? Number two, how physical are you? So those two things kind of go hand in hand, but loving football also happens long before you step foot on the gridiron. It's loving football happens Monday through Saturday, right? And then you play with your hair on fire on Sunday. But loving the game means taking care of your body around the clock. It means getting into the playbook. It means taking extra reps on your own. It means being in the weight room. It means being, living in that facility, recovery, all the above, man. And it goes such a long way, but yeah. So, all that to say, they definitely committed, and it was nice to see them look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, 3 years in a row, we've been bullied in the postseason. That stops now.
That stops now.
And
Yeah.
they did that. So credit to them. I applaud that decision, or the execution, I should say.
Absolutely. I want to hop into one more question. It was about Micah, and then we can hop into the schedule real quick and then head out. And then
Yep. When you do that, I'm gonna use the
Yeah,
rest of the
I mean,
floor.
if he's on the right side,
here we go. Wait, what's that?
obviously-
Oh, cool. So I think this is the okay, cool. So when he gets back, the question that they're gonna ask him is about Micah Parsons and where they want to put him at in this year. And I think the answer to this question was very interesting for one specific reason. He's taking a shot at Dan Quinn. And I feel like, I talked about it earlier. I have not seen Dan Quinn being afraid of letting it be known that he wasn't really pleased with the way this team played defense last year and how he believes that there are things fundamentally that can change. Okay. I think you're going to like this. You're going to like this response a lot from Zim.
A while ago, how much, if he was ago, obviously really
dictating protections weight, you say Micah does
around him.
during games.
With dictating protections weight, you say Micah does. Have you had guys like that? I don't know if DeMarcus was too early in his career to do that, or he was a guy that largely stayed, on the right side.
Yeah, I mean, if he's on the right side, you kind of know where that he's going to be, right?
Let me play that back.
That largely stayed, on the right side.
Yeah, I mean, if he's on the right side, you kind of know where that he's going to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see? He was just like, yeah, you kind of just know where he's going to be. It's, like that's clearly a shot at. That's clearly a shot at.
And the post draft press conference was littered, like I said, subtle shots. That's why I called it explosive in that thumbnail that I showed you guys earlier. It was the last video that I posted last week. Just kind of recapping that they weren't holding back, man. They were saying it was professionally, but yeah, they're letting you know. there's clues. You got to kind of read between the tea leaves and what they're saying a little bit, but yeah.
That was what
explosive stuff, man.
We'll start that from the beginning, then we'll finish out this question.
And he was a guy that largely stayed, on the right side.
Yeah, I mean, if he's on the right side, you kind of know where that he's going to be, right? Michael won't just be on the right side; he'll be in different spots, and not really to that extent that we've, so like when, a lot of times the protection goes to linebackers, and, when Barr, he started being really good on getting on backs and things like that, then we knew the protection was dictated mostly to him. So we've had some access to it.
Cornerback.
So I'll just, so far from what I've seen from the Doomsday podcast with Mike Zimmer and this interview. Oh, dude, it's really excellent job by Ed Werder and Matt Mosley. Seriously.
Class act.
Absolutely. It's just, there's just so much good in what he's saying, and there's so much to decipher in what he's saying. And it kind of feels like he's not saying anything at all.
Yeah.
That's the funniest part about it. It's just like, he's very confident in the way he talks. It's like when people bring up the, hey, this team, they didn't really do anything in free agency. He's kind of just like, all right, yeah, we're good. Because I think he understands what they have in this room. I think he understands there's deficiencies.
No question.
I keep quoting the guy because he knows the guy so well, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. Brian brought us again, talked about this.
Yep.
Bill Parcells wanted him to play a 3-4. He didn't have the personnel to play a 3-4, but they were still one of the league's top-rated defenses because of how he was able to scheme things up on the back end. So that's the thing with Mike Zimmer. Better personnel is going to help him, and personnel that I think better fits a scheme in terms of, like, to me, all they really need is just go get another one technique. You probably you could probably add another 3 tech as well if they want to put Chauncey Golston in that role. But I kind of also feel like Chauncey Golston is like a Mike Zimmer defensive end. Like what he asks his defensive ends to be, that's kind of Chauncey Golston.
I agree. Hey, and then to your point about the 3 tech, we don't need to go add another one. Let's just ask Mozzie Smith to lose 30 pounds again and be somebody that he's not. That's your 3 tech right there. We're good, man. We're solid on that depth.
Oh, man. Yeah, so
don't even get me fired up on that.
Oh, man.
I've been passionate about that since the second that news dropped, man. That was even before the season ended, by the way.
Hey, but it's not the staff's fault. It's not the staff, even though they were at his weigh-ins.
Right.
Every Thursday.
They tried to cover that up. That was weird. But so, you ain't fooling me, man. You ain't fooling me.
Oh, hell no. So let's get into the schedule, man. I gotta say this. Have you gotten a chance to look at the schedule?
Yeah, I took a gander at it. Let's see. Let me get it pulled up. I'll get a little
Bro, I love this schedule.
Yep.
If you were to, like, obviously there are some good teams on the schedule. But when you look at, hey, you get to play a home game versus Detroit. You're on a bye, and then you play Sunday Night Football in San Francisco.
Mm.
Like because I saw that Lions game week 6 and the Niners game week 8, and I'm like, oh, please don't tell me that we're playing like the Ravens in between that. I'm like,
Get a buy for it. Yeah, those are the two. That's a great point. Those are the two North Stars in your conference, right? The two teams that, that's the cream of the crop right now. So the fact that you get to space them out, the league definitely did them some favors right there. I agree. That's big time.
And
you remember the stats last year, like the team, like, so opponents of the 49ers, their records the week after playing the 49ers, like the last 28 games, it was like 4-24 or something stupid like that.
And I think the Cowboys won after they played the 49ers. They went on the road to play the Chargers, and they beat them.
They did. Yeah.
So when I look at the schedule, oh yeah, like when I look at the schedule, one thing that pops out to me is that the only cold weather game that they're going to play, like, could be Washington November 24th, and then Philly December 29th, week 17. So, like, you get Cleveland out of the way week 1. So you'll probably be playing in good weather there. You get Pittsburgh out of the way October 6th. Lions, you get them at home. Atlanta, they're a dome. Commanders, they're a dump. And so is Philly. But like, I look at the schedule and like, when I look at the first 5 games, I think the Cowboys can be 4-1. And to be honest with you, like, we'll talk about the game closer to the game. Hear me out on this one. I think they're going to beat the Ravens. And the reason why I say that is this. I think they're a good matchup for them because when you look at the strength of the Ravens when it comes to their pass rush, Justin Madubuike, like, where does he play? On the interior. Where are the Cowboys the strongest? On the interior. So
it's strength versus exactly, strength versus strength. I like that's how I usually look at games. Like, where are you best and where is your opponent weakest? Like, how do you stack up in that regard? So, that's interesting. I mean, the cold weather element is definitely a thing. Like, thinking about the NFC South, right? Most of those games are going to be good wet. Like when you're the Cowboys, most NFC South games you're either in a dome or you're in tropical climates for the most part, outside of Carolina. But even them on the East Coast, they're not seeing a ton of 30-degree games. Now, week 15, there's probably going to be a chance of rain, probably going to be pretty chilly. But wait, that's a home game, isn't it? Yeah. See that? So
what's that? What's that? The Panthers?
Yeah, the Panthers.
Oh no!
That is a road game. That is a road game. Okay.
And they're kind of like really bad. So even if we play them in bad weather, I'm not like.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that whatsoever. It shakes out, man. It's you think here's a thought too. Who do you think starts? Would you be shocked to see Jameis Winston start at quarterback for the Browns this year, even despite the contract?
Ooh, I would be, because I think they're going to try their hardest to just make it work with Deshaun. And they're
almost got
they're in a tough. And what's crazy is their contract with their quarterback is way worse than Dallas's contract with Dak, and they're able to spend money.
Oh yeah, no outs, no outs in the near future whatsoever either. So they're stuck. I mean, that's a tough deal, man. I mean, having to travel. You start off with Cleveland, 2 weeks, albeit at home. You handle the Ravens, and then it's on the road, division game, team that's going to be fired up to try and avenge the embarrassment from really the last 6 years, every game that they've played against Dak Prescott, and then you got to go to Pittsburgh, and then coming back home, man, against the Lions the following. That's a tough little That's a tough little stretch right there, but I like the fact that it comes early in the year. Teams are kind of still going to be figuring themselves out too. You get a chance to sort of Tyler Guyton, you get his feet wet. You literally it's trial by fire, and he's off and running, off to the races. Like every single week, it doesn't matter who you stack him up against. His assignment gets easier from week 1 and on. Right? You're not going to see a more difficult matchup than Myles Garrett. So I like that. Just kind of getting him acclimated early on, man. It's only a good thing. It's only
think about it like this. In the first 5 weeks, he's going to play Myles Garrett, Cameron Jordan, Brian Burns, and TJ Watt.
Welcome.
Those are 4 of his. It's and then he gets to play Aiden Hutchinson. Then he gets to play Nick Bosa.
Yep. And then he's got Will Anderson, and they signed Danielle Hunter too, right? The Texans
and Danielle Hunter. Yeah.
So you got
and
them
then he gets to play Brian Burns again, Trey Hendrickson,
and whoever else on that side of the ball for the Bengals.
Woo.
Yeah, fun stuff, man. So I love looking at the schedule because it kind of gives me an idea. I can really start to kind of break down how I see the season shaking out. But just in terms of like the NFL, man, it's such a weird week to week deal with injuries and just game plans and things like that. Like there's always every single year, like you can go through and kind of look at, okay, you can break it down into tiers as far as like games that you should win, games that are going to be really competitive, and games that don't look good on the schedule, right? You can kind of break it up that way. But the reality is looking at this schedule right here, week 1 through 18, there's 2 or 3 teams in the NFL that are going to be 4 to 5 games worse than Vegas projects. And there's also going to be 2 to 3 teams on here that are going to be 4 to 5 games better than Vegas projects. That happens every single year. There's a couple teams that drastically exceed expectations, and then there's also a couple teams that you expect to be really good that drastically underperform for a myriad of reasons. Right? So it's impossible to predict, but looking at the schedule, man, I mean, here's
what I will say. I do want to point this out real quick. I know we were talking about like the edge rushers that Tyler Guyton has to face. Guess what?
Yeah.
Evan Neal has to play Micah Parsons. Troy Fatnow has to play Micah Parsons. Whoever the hell is on the 49ers playing center or guard, they're going to have to play Micah Parsons, or right tackle. They're going to have to play him, because I don't think Zimmer is just going to be like, hey, let's just line him up against Trent Williams and Lane Johnson all game.
He's already said that. He's already said that. Dude, we were on stream when that was happening last year. I'm like, why are you relentlessly slamming yourself, like asking Micah to just, go beat Lane Johnson over and over and over again? It's just like, dude, what are we doing, man? Let's make an adjustment. Let's use our head here. But
it's like when I see some of these games, like the Lions, keep them away from Penei Sewell. When I see the 49ers, keep them away from Trent Williams. When I see the Eagles, keep them away from Wayne Johnson.
Yep. Pretty like for me.
They can't. Here's the advantage that the defense has. You can move Micah Parsons around. They can't move their offensive linemen around. They can't say, hey, Lane, I know you're at right tackle. Go line up at left tackle because Micah Parsons is over. They can't. They have to stay exactly where they are. I don't know why. I don't know why, a team wouldn't. I don't know why a coordinator wouldn't use his versatility for good.
Maximize both of his superpowers as opposed to just stubbornly only trying to utilize one.
Yeah, but last thing about this schedule, I am disappointed that we're not getting a 10 o'clock game like we did last year for the preseason. I am upset about that. I don't know why. I actually enjoyed that. I don't know why, but I was just like, it's like 12:30 at night, and I'm watching a bunch of people who probably won't make the team playing football right now. I'm like, shit, nobody can question my fandom at that point.
Yeah, that's a fact. I mean, look at us. We're sitting here, what is it, May 15th. We're almost 3 hours in on a live stream. I mean, come on. Come on now.
Yeah,
There's
man.
we're
Hey, man.
different breed, and 20 people roughly kind of lingering in the chat right now for most of this session. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us, man. This is only going to continue to get better, and we're not quite done yet, but just kind of giving another visual, and I wanted to say another heartfelt thank you. Like, this is one of the things that I've got coming up the pipeline too. The soundboard is coming, the more interactive live streams are coming. I'll figure out how to be more efficient with all my visuals and things like that. Producing and hosting your show all at the same time is a skill and an art that I have a deep appreciation for after dabbling in it just a few times. Really, this is only like my third or fourth time to really try and do it. So yeah, we're gonna keep getting better, man. But there's a bunch of real ones in here right now. Anybody that's in this chat right now, like watching this show, you are cut from a different cloth than the mass. Yeah. These are the well-informed, deeply passionate fans who are, it's a round the clock, year round process, right? You go straight from regular season to postseason. You go from postseason to draft season. You go from draft season to free agency. You go from free agency to all of a sudden it's OTAs, mini camp, training camp, all the, so the NFL has it mastered, man. They figured it out. It's year round. It's 24/7, 365. And yeah, couldn't thank you guys all enough. But just go ahead and do us a favor. I mentioned it a second ago. It's still posted right here on the banner. I'll take that away. But hit that like button for us if you haven't already, man. Chris has been doing fantastic work behind the scenes. I've been keeping up with him as best as I can, while also, I'm raising two babies right now. I've got two girls under 2, or 2 and under, and building 2 businesses at the same time as well, contributing to another. So life is fast and furious, man, but I'm blessed. I love what I do, and I appreciate any and all support that you guys have continued to show me and will continue to show me moving forward. So thank you very much.
Hey, man, I work, bro. Here's the thing, man. I'm up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I might grind film. I might edit content. And then I'm off to work. I work like 9-10 hours a day, and then I'm back again. So, bro, yeah. and I drive for UPS. So I'm, this is like, it's physical labor. But when I come on stream, bro, it's completely different. And I know you got the Rodecaster Pro 2, and I just want to, I don't know if you can hear this, but I got the Rodecaster Pro 2 as well.
Let's go, man. Cheers to you, man. Cheers to you.
It'll be paid off in like 2 months.
Let's go. I know. I noticed. I think I saw your first ever live stream once you had it set up. It was around a month and a half, 2 months ago, something like that. Yeah, dude. So I'm joining the fam. I'm excited first and foremost to get it going. But this seems like the user friendliness of it is
it's great.
All the features that go with it, the user friendliness is to me the most impressive part about this hardware. So I'm excited to get it set up. But curious of your process. Like, did you have any issues or technical difficulties getting it going, or?
Not really. It was
a little trial and error, and then you're off to the race. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see how I can, because Law Nation has it, and I want to see how I can get my audio is pretty good, but his audio is like pristine,
cream of the crop.
Like him and Jay Tuck, and I'm like, wait, I have the same equipment as them. I should probably be like sounding as good as them, but like
I should probably sound better. Yeah.
Like they know exactly what buttons to press to make their voice sound like as good as it can. So I'll have to definitely find that out. But by that, somebody was saying we should get a Doc Attack on here. I like him, man. He is very passionate. He's very opinionated, and that's great for our business.
I'm actually not sure. I don't know that I'm aware of who that is.
Oh, you've probably seen him before. He's the one that you'll see. He'll go at like Dan Orlovsky and stuff like that. Like,
dude, Dan, he replied to me. I've been very openly critical about him. I had a couple tweets go viral. I think a TikTok or 2 that took off as well in response to some things that he was saying. But he was doing film analysis on NFL Network where he was just literally objectively breaking down film instead of providing opinions and polarizing takes. Being an actor, as I call him, right, on fake take television. Yeah, fake take sports, baby. I gave him like a heartfelt compliment and added him, and he remembered, I guess, seeing some of the things that I had said about him. And I was, I wasn't vulgar by any means, but I was just passionately objective about my thoughts on what he said. And I conveyed those in the only way that I know how, and very thoughtful, and tried to be eloquent with my words, right? Because, I want people to respect me when I speak, and, everything that I say, my reputation's on the line. So anyway, try to be respectful with it. But my compliments to him when he was just breaking down film, as opposed to trying to create all these polarizing fake take headlines and all that stuff. He asked me if my compliment was an olive branch, like a forgiveness for him for the things that he had said about the Cowboys and some of my thoughts in response to those things. Yeah, I thought it was funny, but he remembered, and then he responded to me. He was like, "Landon, is this an olive branch?" And he said it completely lighthearted, completely like just he was having fun, and I appreciated that a lot. I respected it, but.
Well, you want to know what's funny? So I had a TikTok go viral where I literally went over some of his hypocrisies.
Oh
And
yeah, it's crazy.
so I forget who it was. I think it was William Spencer at Hype's Finest. Posted the TikTok on his X account, and Dan Orlovsky sees it. And he's talking about like some of the stuff that I say on there. And I'm like, dude, he's like talking about the San Francisco 49ers being like the biggest threat to the Eagles at the time. And he was like, oh, well, yeah, like, even though San Francisco lost, it's like, well, what if the Cowboys didn't have Tyron Smith? And it's like, yeah, the game that just passed, they didn't have Tyron Smith. I'm like,
yeah.
So,
he literally wasn't there. I mean, come on.
Like we saw that, and they like beat the Rams by like 1 million points. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of his, or I'm going to be honest with you, are a lot of the people that cover sports on the national stage,
mainstream sports
because
media. Yeah, I'm there too, man. I'm with you. It's out of sight, out of mind for me. I just don't even give it the light of day.
It's kind of borderline disrespectful, some of the stuff they say, not even just about the Cowboys, just about some of the teams in general, where it's just like they're kind of like going at Kirk Cousins for just kind of just like, wait, he's not even a top 10 paid quarterback in the league. And he's a top 10 quarterback. Like, my personal opinion, I think Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback. And I'm like, wait, he's not overpaid at all. He's actually kind of fairly paid.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about on par, right? I mean, like you said, he's kind of right there in somewhere in that second, maybe third tier of quarterbacks, depending on how you want to split them up. But one other question too, in regards to the schedule, I just noticed this a few minutes ago. You see Washington there, week 18. Look at it's giving you, there's an option. It says either January 4th or January 5th. I've never seen that before. Do you know? Have you seen anything like that? Like, what is the purpose there? Why would they build in a flex like 18 weeks out?
So it's probably because, like, you remember when we played Philly? I think that was week 18, 2021, 2022 season.
Oh yeah. You think
we were
it's
supposed
just
to play
for
them
like
on this Saturday. Yeah, it gives them that opportunity. Like, hey,
like
play it on
putting
Saturday.
a game with more, or if depending on where they're at in the playoff race and things like that. Is that what that's about? Just having a primetime flex option depending on the seasonal outcome.
Yeah, like if the Cowboys have won the division already, or they're not going to win the division, it'll be on Saturday night.
Yeah, that's
true. If they're competing for the division, it'll be that 425 game.
So what you're saying essentially is that's where my head went, but I wasn't sure because I'd never seen that before. But essentially, if there's stakes on the line for the Cowboys and or the Commanders, right? They'll leave it on Sunday. But if not, if it looks like another situation where we kind of have the 2 seed or the 3 seed locked up and Washington's just completely tanked their way out of it, they're playing a bunch of their backups. That can be a game that happens on Saturday at some point. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah,
cool that the league is involved to do some of those things now.
Definitely. Is there
Leadfoot wants to know, what do y'all think of Tom Brady's comments on Dak and Dallas's game, or on on Dak and the Dallas game. If you want to take that one, go for it. I'm kind of impartial. I really don't have a lot there, but
I think people overreacted to that. Like, it's a fair question. Like, it's a fair question. Like, look, I love Dak. I'm a huge Dak fan, right? But like, that question is going to loom over him amongst a majority of the general public. Like, can Dak come through? And I think
no doubt.
Tom Brady was just conveying what I think the general public is asking. Like, I didn't have any problems with. I don't think he was throwing any type of shade. I think, like,
Well,
Aaron Rodgers said it last year. Like, when he was talking about the mediocrity in the game, he's like, Dak's not who he was talking about. And like, I feel like,
yeah, no, he singled out Dak like in favor of him. Like, he was like, Dak is one of them ones that can actually command the entire offense from the line of scrimmage and go and do things. Like, he's winning up here. Aaron said that. That was cool. That was cool to hear. And then also to your point, building off the Tom Brady thing, like, the Cowboys agree. As of right now, he doesn't have a contract beyond 2024. So they agree, right?
Yeah.
Is there any other way to say it right now?
I think everybody I think a lot of people in the fan base are asking, like, I'm asking that question, and I believe in the guy. Sure. I really do. Yeah. But like, I don't think it was a shot. I don't think it was, I think he was just asking a question that I think a lot of people have. And, I think Tom Brady's going to be great. I think he's going to be great as a commentator. I can't wait and he's going to be calling a lot of Dallas games, guys. So get used to hearing Tom Brady. I hope people don't hate Tom Brady, because
here's what I think about that statement.
Yeah. Dak was the last quarterback he's ever faced. But no, I think Brady, I don't think he meant too much harm by it. I just think, And
listen, Tom Brady, if anybody's allowed to say whatever the hell they want at whoever the hell they want, it's that guy.
It's that guy. It's 100% Tom Brady.
Oh, yeah. So, if Leadfoot is curious, he's asked, assuming he's a he. He's asking, for the comments, right? And I think he was just genuinely curious. I don't think that he was implying that we would think that it was maybe necessarily derogatory or anything like that. But personally, I didn't take any sort of offense whatsoever. That's just my overall thoughts. I'm having fun with it too, the same way he was, right? I'm sitting here live posting the score of the last football game that Tom Brady ever played in, right? So, it's have fun with it, man. That's what I try to do the best I can.
Yeah, definitely. Is there
any other questions or topics that we need to hit on before we get out of here, man?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much good.
I mean, I could rant for 5 more hours, really. If somebody's donated $200 right now, I'd stay on here until 3 a.m. But
man, you want to know what payday's tomorrow for me? So maybe not tonight. Maybe not tonight. Maybe wait till like Monday night or like Sunday night. Then I'd be a little more inclined for that. But
yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Once again, man, appreciate everybody being in here. If you're unfamiliar with my guy Cowboys Beat here, fantastic work. Please go follow him, check him out. Are you at Cowboys Beat on all socials? I know that's your YouTube handle. I know
all socials. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All socials. So
all socials.
I'll go ahead and put it in the chat and pin it. It's actually on his name. Let's just go ahead and do this. How about that? We'll make it easy. We'll go brand.
And then you're the Lando show, right? On all social media.
All socials. Once again, same exact. Yep.
All socials. Yeah. I love the way you break down the game, because I think you break it down in a way that isn't like a lot of people break it down one way. I think you like to dig deeper into not just the game itself, but dig deeper into, sports locker psychology. Room and sports psychology. I think it's very interesting, but I think you do a very great job of covering the game, just the meat and potatoes, but then also getting deeper into, things that honestly some people are kind of afraid to talk about, because you get into like mental health and stuff like that. And that's where not everybody understands the psychology of pro athletes.
Yep. And that's the thing is that, I try to use my background, my playing experience to my advantage on that regard, man. And it is under talked about. Like people, you know, my post last night about Mozzie Smith, the things that he had to deal with. If you didn't see that, please go watch it.
Oh, I saw it. Yep.
Well, I'm just for you, but anybody who's watching right now, you know, it's loaded, man. And with Mozzie, you know, so my thing is I've deeply connect to the sports, like the psychology in sport, because it's not enough people appreciate what is actually happening behind the scenes and in between the ears. And, you know, it's the human element of sport gets removed from the equation far too often. And so, like you see on the screen right now, sports below the surface, that's you know, that's kind of like my slogan or calling card or whatever you want, but, you know, just kind of builds back off of your point, man. I appreciate you saying that. And that's, you know, it's good to hear the validation and the verification from somebody else who I respect in this space, who, you know, you are in the same exact line of work as I am. Right. And just so to hear you say that, it's further validation that I'm on the right track, doing what I'm doing. Just need to keep, you know, stick to the process, right, and commit to it and keep going. So I really appreciate the kind words, and you know that the feelings are mutual, man. It's more of the same for me. So
Absolutely, bro. Hey, one question. So to dive into sports psychology, you remember that video that came out about with Micah Parsons after the Guyton pick? And he was saying like the reaction that he had was because he had to do 10 push-ups. Yeah. What would your reaction be? You get drafted, right? Biggest night of the year. Yeah. You see your teammate with that reaction. Now, granted, it's because he had to do 10 push-ups. If he came up to you and said, yo, my bad, bro, I just did that because I had to do 10 push-ups on stream. How would you take that? Because me, like, if somebody came up to me and said, yo, my bad for that reaction, like, my reaction was because I had to do 10 push-ups, I'd be like, is this guy serious? Like, there would be a little bit of respect that would be missing from me and that individual.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. For me, though, like, personal experience, your teammates, when you're a rookie or a freshman, a first-time pro in a brand new environment with a bunch of guys that have already been on the team, like they have that like pre-existing and pre-established relationship, you are on the same team, but you have more to prove to your teammates from the jump than you do anybody else. Because nobody knows you, understands you, and sees through you better than your teammate, your comrades, the guys that you're blood, sweat, tears with, going to war with on a daily basis. You cannot hide who you really are. So for me personally, I'm always like chip on shoulder guy. Like I'll use anything as fuel. I'm like, if you say that I can't do something, watch me. I honestly, I love that. I had to grow to like that. Right. There were some things that happened to me early on in my career and in my college days where I got the short end of the stick from, I didn't have coaches who were encouraging and who all I needed was somebody to put their arm around me whenever I was my first year at the D1 level playing at ACU. All I needed was a coach to say, hey, man, you're not there yet, but you have the ability and you're close. Keep going, commit to it, and I will help you every step of the way. That's all. That, like, you show up, I'll give you everything I got. I never got that. Okay, so from that point forward, like I took it, I had this sort of me versus me approach, and that I've applied the discipline that I learned from baseball into every other aspect of life: fatherhood, husband, sports media now, building a golf business, right? I've applied that because of some of the turmoil that I had to walk through and just sort of dealing with that adversity that I hadn't felt before. The thing with Tyler Guyton, though, in that particular instance, to me, like Micah Parsons, we know he's an outspoken person. He's a charismatic guy too, right? I've used that word a couple of different times on this stream, talking about like DQ and people like that. But I think if Micah Parsons is he's enough of a household name and an understood personality, like he gets enough, I guess, screen to TV time, right? People talk about him enough that you kind of understand who he is, right? He's gonna say some things that are interesting. Like when they drafted Mozzie, his reaction with what was his name? The basketball personality.
Lefko, Adam
Adam
Lefko.
Lefko. There you go. Yeah. So that one, he's very passionate. He's very candid. He's outspoken. And so I'm sure, like, he's just being a kid in the moment, like, oh, dude, I have to do push-ups now. Like, damn. Like, he's not necessarily, he in a lot of ways is guilty, I guess I would say, of being prisoner of the moment, right? There's some things that he says some things all the time that he probably would be better off not saying, right? But that's just him. That's who he is. He's going to speak his mind, and he doesn't have much of a filter. And so for me, though, personally, I don't care if I'm Tyler Guyton. Whether the national and the public perception of me is positive or negative, I still have something to prove to everybody in that locker room first and foremost. That's the mentality that he has to have. And I'll just say this. We didn't get to really dive in as deep as I wanted to on the sports psychology stuff with each one of these draft picks and how they affect the roster and things like that, which I guess we will do that. I'll continue to be doing that on my channel as well. But Tyler Guyton, there are a lot of things to be very excited about in that regard, as far as the way that he approaches the game. He didn't love the game 4 years ago, but he really didn't play football till he was a senior. Okay. OU's offensive line coach that has seen countless NFL players come through that program. He says he's the most talented one that he's ever coached. Okay.
Yeah.
Playing a different position, being recruited to play a different position in college, right? He hasn't even really played left tackle before. Right. So the sample size is small, but I'm telling you right now, Will McClay even hinted at this too in the press conference. If he plays one more year of college at OU, he's a top 10 pick. Because he didn't know what to do with his hands yet. He didn't really, like the punch, the power, the finish, all that type of stuff. Like those were the knocks on him coming out. But you start to understand, oh, damn, like this dude he really is a one-of-one athlete that just needs a little bit of time, like under the microscope a little bit in the lab with Duke Manyweather. And he said, as soon as I got drafted, or as soon as he found out he was going to be playing left tackle, he started working. And the day that he got drafted, what did he do? He got himself a little a play. I think it was an Airbnb, right? And he started training instantly with Duke Manyweather, day one. So just the way that he speaks, the way that he carries himself, the confidence in which he speaks, and then the just all of the peer-to-peer and coach-to-peer endorsements of this kid. There's a lot to love, and I'll just leave it at that. And that'll be my teaser for a future project.
And one last thing to add to that, honestly, if this wasn't such a tackle-rich class and there weren't so many quarterbacks that went out early, this guy might have been a top 15 pick. Like Trevor Penning was a top 15 pick.
Yeah,
like 2 years ago. Tyler Guyton is a way better player than Trevor Penning was. So that's what I'll leave with.
Love it, man. Well, Chris, dude, thanks again. This was a lot of fun, man. Probably well past due, but appreciate your time.
Yeah.
If you're not following Chris, follow him, subscribe to his channel at Cowboys Beat. You're seeing, if you're starting to notice some things that are being said from, we'll just say, some giants and some kings in our industry, they're starting to I don't know if I'm allowed to say it yet, so I'm not going to. We can talk about this behind the scenes, Chris. Things are trending right now. The snowball effect is starting to gain some momentum here. You're seeing intentionally creators like Cowboys Beat, The Lando Show, Okoye, Skywalker Steel, Your Guy Nix, Botch Lombardi, Law Nation. I'm missing a few.
Foots.
Jay Tuck.
Foots.
Foots the King. Exactly. All these, there's a couple different handfuls of us. You're seeing some things like you're seeing right now. Chris and I joining forces, Vach and Nix joining forces for a show, Foots and Double Move joining forces for a show. Skywalker Steel and Jeff Kavanaugh joining forces for a show. I'm scheduled. I've got a couple other people that I'm on the waiting list right now. But you're going to start to see this a lot more. There's a reason for that. But the community of people, like the 11 of you that are still in here right now, the 20 of you that have been with us for most of the duration of this show, Y'all make this happen. And I want people to understand that. You hit the like button for us. That helps make everything that you see better. And that puts Chris and myself and any other combination of your favorite people that are breaking down the Cowboys right now for a living, doing literally in the trenches in the month of May. This is all we do. You know, we're doing it for fans, the passionate fans like yourselves who are in here right now that deserve to hear the truth and not the fake take polarizing stuff that's just surface level things that you know, it's for clicks and views, man. We are here for a much different reason. There's a much different purpose, and we're all collectively joining forces and working together to build something very special. And you guys are a part of that. Okay, so don't forget that. Keep that in mind. There's a methodical approach that's happening right now. You're gonna continue to see a lot more of this stuff. And now with that, I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna get out of here. Everybody's gonna go sleep good, and then we're gonna reconvene and we're gonna talk about this again on a later date. So once again, don't forget to hit that like button. Chris, you're the man. I appreciate you, brother. We'll talk soon. And everybody else out there, stay safe. Have a great rest of your week and enjoy the show moving forward. The show goes on, baby.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it, bro.